The Broncos fired 3 assistant coaches yesterday, which means there's a lot to talk about today. Some rumors about Sean Payton giving up play calling, which is kind of interesting.
Nope.
No, Ryan says no, but we'll have to talk about it. Also, Greg Penner had his end-of-season press conference this morning, so we'll hear from Zach about what happened out there at Broncos headquarters. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. This is the DNVR Broncos Podcast presented by our friends over at Bet365, where if you deposit $10, place bet for $5, you get $200 in bonus bets, and we're live from the Xfinity studio. Xfinity, imagine that. Yeah. Speaking of Xfinity, we're going to head out and hear from Zach on the Xfinity mobile call-in line. Imagine that, and hear what Zach had to learn from hearing from Greg Penner this morning.
Fellas, what's going on? A lot of stuff that we learned from Greg Penner today. We talked to the big dog in the organization, the CEO and owner, Greg Penner. And guys, first off, I think the most important news, the thing that impacts fans the most, he did talk about Bo Nix. Obviously, we got some potentially concerning news from Sean yesterday about how he was predisposed to that injury. Today, Greg Penner said he has zero concern over Bo Nix moving forward. Said it was a very straightforward procedure. It went well despite the previous injuries that he's had to his ankle. He said there's zero concerns there. So hopefully that is the case, but he's had no concerns about it at all. So that's good news there. Also, a little stadium update. The Broncos are in the preliminary design phase with some architects about what it's going to look like. So we're not close to finding out what a stadium's going to look like, but I still believe that could be months away, which is really exciting. I mean, I think that's kind of the next step for fans is to see what the stadium could look like. And then George Payton and Sean Payton's extensions. Guys, George Payton has 1 year left on his deal. Sean Payton has 2 years left on his deal. George Payton, you typically don't let a successful general manager go into their final year of the deal, so it's expected that he's going to get a deal. Greg Penner made it clear that we want both of those guys here long term, so expect those guys to get a deal. He would not get into specifics, though, about when they will get those deals. Those are kind of the 3 biggest things that stood out to me. Actually, one more thing. Let me just hit you with the 4th really quick. He made it very clear that they're the best owners in the NFL because of what he said. He's not satisfied with the way this season went. And it's very clear. He is Super Bowl or bust. He did not say that, but he said, we're not satisfied with the way the season went. We're not going to use any excuses that we could possibly use. And that's the standard. He said, we're going to set the bar as owners extremely high. And then if you don't meet it, we're going to hold you accountable.
Love it. Love it, Zach. Real quick, what's the latest you've heard on the offensive coordinator situation?
Yeah, well, Ryan, I did see that Ian Rappaport tweet that Henry referred to in the tease there, and you're shaking your head as well. And, of course, what I'm referring to is Ian Rappaport suggested, didn't flat out say, but suggested that Sean Payton might have brought Joe Brady in to be the offensive coordinator with play calling duties. Ryan, talking to many people inside the building, that would be a massive shock if Sean is willing to give up play calling duties from maybe what it could be. Again, this is just speculation floating around in the building, is that maybe it's like he would have brought Joe Brady in with play calling duties in the future lined up, like coach in waiting, play calling in waiting lined up, because I do think that Sean knows that he can't do play calling forever. But I don't think he's willing to give it up anytime soon. So that I think might have been a little off there in terms of him truly giving it up there. But what I'm hearing right now is, I mean, what it feels like from the outside. Davis Webb is certainly the clear front runner. The Broncos are going to have an extensive search right now. But guys, Davis Webb, they're not even sure if he's going to stay here because it's pretty clear he wouldn't have play calling duties with the Broncos because of what we just talked about with Sean Payton. And he's getting interest from many, many different teams for play calling duties. And Sean's made it pretty clear that he's not going to hold guys hostage in their coaching staff if they have better opportunities out there. So if they can get Davis Webb to be that, then he'll definitely, that's the guy that they want. But there's not a guarantee that he's going to want to stay here without play calling duties.
Yeah, it's like saying like Steph Curry was willing to give up shooting threes if Jamal Murray came to the Warriors. Like, no, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. I will say, I think a lot of people, Zach, thought that the firing of Joe Lombardi was directly related to the promotion of Davis Webb. And I know you talked about that on the emergency show, but can you just quickly talk about your perspective on that?
Yeah, not 100% connected to it. This was going to happen regardless. Guys, my understanding is Sean Payton had made this decision days in advance. In fact, people in the building knew that it was going to happen at least 24 hours before it happened. And this was not directly tied to Davis Webb because, look, if this was directly tied to Davis Webb, then they would have waited until the Raiders made their decision on if they were hiring him as a head coach. And then if they said, no, we're not hiring you as a head coach, then they would have fired Joe Lombardi to then promote Davis Webb. So it's not directly tied, but I do think that there is a clear front runner, and it is Davis Webb. And then also inside the building, there's a couple of other candidates. Zach Strief, who's the run game coordinator. Sean kind of spilled the beans a little bit yesterday because he said, I went into Zach Strief's office yesterday, is what Sean said, talk about how to get this run game on track. You probably would have gone into the offensive coordinator's office to get the run game on track if you were going to be keeping him around. So that shows how much he likes Zach Strief, and he loves Zach Strief. So that's another guy to consider. Pete Carmichael, who's been an assistant, longtime assistant with Sean. He's a guy that's in the building that they could promote as well. And just, this is such an interesting spot because Sean Payton's the play caller. Sean Payton's the offense. So it's who is Sean Payton most comfortable with, kind of having as a right-hand man, having up in the booth, talking to him throughout games. And clearly Sean, despite having a very successful season as a team, wanted a change there. And then we also talked about it 24 hours ago to the second nearly about how there was going to be a change at the wide receiver coach position. And they did move on from Keary Colbert. And then cornerbacks coach, they also moved on from him as well to get a new voice in that room.
What makes Davis Webb so desirable?
Well, what he's done with Bo Nix and also Russell Wilson. And, we talk about it. Davis Webb works the closest to the quarterbacks of anyone in the building. Sean Payton's probably number 2, then the offensive coordinator, number 3. But you saw Russell Wilson bounce back in Davis Webb's first year with the Broncos. He got credit for that. You also see what Bo Nix has done. Just an incredible jump from being the 6th quarterback taken to what he did his rookie season, what he did his second season. Davis Webb gets a lot of credit for that. And also, Henry, just how he's thought about in league circles since the time he was a player as well. I talked to someone with the Giants 3 weeks ago, I believe, and they said that they thought that Davis Webb was going to be a coach at some point in the NFL when he was their backup quarterback, and how much of a mistake it was that once he decided to become a coach, that they let him leave the building without just hiring him to be a coach. So you're around him, you just know that this guy's special. Now, to go from a quarterback coach that's not calling plays to a head coach is a massive leap. But if the Raiders are willing to take that chance on a guy, they would be thinking it's the next Sean McVay. Obviously, that's not the step the Broncos want him to take. So that's why there's just so much uncertainty around him right now. Does he stay in this good spot until he gets a head coaching job next year? Or does he leave for another offensive coordinator job where he actually gets to call plays?
Well, and that only happens in places where the head coach is highly regarded. You're only seeing guys like Shieldhouse from the Rams and Kevin O'Connell before him. You go through the list of these guys, Mike McDaniel, these guys who get promoted from below offensive coordinator up to that role. I think he might have actually been offensive coordinator, but not calling plays. So it's a great reflection on Sean, and whoever would be the next person in that position will end up being highly regarded too, whether that's, someone in the building like Logan Kilgore or, someone else.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I mean, just look at Declan Doyle last year. He was kind of the Davis Webb and now he's in that Davis Webb position for the Bears. Declan Doyle was the Broncos tight end coach. He's 26 years old when he was hired to be the Broncos tight end coach a couple of years ago. Then last year, out of nowhere, because he's got this Sean touch, then the Bears hired him to be their OC, and now he's already getting interviews to potentially be a play calling OC as well. So you're absolutely right. This is going to happen with Sean Payton, and Sean tells this story about once every month. So I might have said it on this show already, but Sean loves that his coaching staff is desirable. He talks about how back when he was with the Saints, Mr. Benson would come up to him and say, Coach, why are we losing all of our coaches? Like, isn't this an issue? And Sean said, no, it's an issue if they don't want your coaches. And so this is the challenge that Sean brings about him. And it would be a bummer to lose Davis Webb. There's no doubt he's a great coach. But Ryan, kind of like you're saying as well, you got to trust in Sean that he's going to find the next guy and be able to develop the next guy. So it would be a blow. They want to keep him. That's why he's clearly the front runner in my mind after talking to a lot of people. But if they lose him, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. Do you know why they moved on from the two other coaches?
Keary Colbert, well, pretty clear Sean was not happy with the way that the receivers were being coached. As you're saying, get that U together, make those thumbs touch. It's pretty crazy that an entire year or multiple years went by with something so simple, upsetting Sean so much that he says it at the season-ending press conference that the coach was kept throughout this entire time. And look, the Broncos did lead the league in drops, and it wasn't good in the playoffs last year. It wasn't good in the playoffs this year. So that was why, because of the results. And then on the other side, I think they wanted new leadership with that cornerback position. Obviously, I mean, Addison Lynch, I believe he came out yesterday and said, look what I've done with the cornerbacks, and certainly the success has been there. But Sean wanted new leadership in that position, and I think there were some things not directly tied with results that were also in play there.
I also think, Riley Moss was in great position all season and got called for a lot of flags. It reminds me of the receivers being in a position to make the catch, not catching it.
Right.
It's one of those things where maybe you just want new eyes, new voice in there to try and get something different out of those players.
Right, because I'd imagine the Broncos had to lead the NFL in cornerback penalties with Riley in there. And then you also have your first-round pick at cornerback, play only 7 snaps in the last 2 games, the lightest of the year, when you would think that guy would be able to contribute more. So I think there are a couple things you could point to.
Totally, and that's not to say that it's all the coach's fault.
No.
Any of that stuff. But
could a coach fix it?
Right, and it's usually easier to the easier first move is to change the coach and see if that helps the players.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And especially when you have so much invested in that spot, like you said, and now you're going to be making a decision on Jaquan, his future here. So you have so much invested there. And look, Greg Penner just said it to us as well, that you're always going to have some turnover with the coaching staff, whether guys get plucked away or whether you fire them. He has that business mindset, and clearly he gives Sean the green light. Yeah, if we need to move on from someone because you don't feel like they're the best vibe, or you think we can get even more from that position, feel free to do it. He admitted that right here, so Sean's obviously going to take that role with it. From right now, my understanding is these are the only moves that the Broncos are going to make, and I do believe that Vance Joseph is going to be the defensive coordinator next year. So if I had to guess and predict what the Broncos staff looks like, it's going to be Vance Joseph as DC, Davis Webb as OC, and then obviously we're keeping special teams the same with Darren Rizzi because that's Sean's guy.
Zach, anything else super notable from the presser today that we need to hit before we let you go?
Man, I just got to reiterate that talking to Greg Penner and being around him just should make Broncos country feel truly like they have the best ownership in the NFL. That today was not like a celebratory, we made the AFC Championship game and probably would have made the Super Bowl if we had our starting quarterback. It was, we need to do better. And that drive, especially when you have a coach like Sean Payton who has that drive as well, but man, you get that from the owner, that is something special. And that's why the Broncos are going to have one of the best facilities, the best facility in the NFL in a couple of months from now. And then also they're going to have the best new stadium in 2031.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like we've seen some really ugly press conferences recently from ownership. And it's easy if you're only looking internally to just be like, oh yeah, we're used to this. Like they're just politicians. They kind of go up there, they say what they're supposed to say and they get off. But it's definitely not the case. And it also should be noted that the Walton Penner Group made the most money you can possibly make in a season. They hosted all the games they possibly could host. So it would be easy for them to just be like, all right, like we did everyone, let's go, bang up job, everybody. But you can tell that these guys are about what Broncos Country is about, which is winning championships.
Yeah, 100%. And they know that they have more resources this year to make an even bigger push because Russell Wilson's dead cap is off the books. Greg was pleased with the way that the Broncos handled that by not making any excuses with it. And that was something that Sean really made a point of emphasis. In fact, there was a team meeting, I think a year ago, where Russell Wilson's dead cap was brought up by like a semi-business football person. And Sean was in the room and Sean stood up and said, no, none of that. We're not going to have these excuses. Stop mentioning the dead cap. And that just no excuses. Get the job done. Win a Super Bowl. That's clearly starts with Greg and Sean and has trickled down the building as well here.
All right. Thanks, Zach. Have fun
Right
doing whatever you do next.
See you.
That was Zach Stevens, the Xfinity mobile call-in line. We've got a lot to talk about, but real quick, gotta talk about some of our friends.
You've heard us already talk about how great the Ent Credit Union card and their Broncos checking product and all of the awesome perks it comes with, all of that stuff you've heard us talk about. But this card is not just for your wallet. It's a direct ticket to impact for every new member who snags this PS2 card. Ent will donate $50 to Children's Hospital Colorado. It's part of the Enterception program where Ent also donated $1,000 to Children's Hospital for every Broncos interception. Awesome program, and you can help make it an even better program by signing up for the PS2 Ent Broncos debit card. So if you're ready to bank like a Bronco and support a great cause, head over to ent.com/DNVR to learn more. Insured by the NCUA. Membership required. Account requires a Sensiated Ent Broncos debit card. Ent will make a one-time donation on your behalf. This donation is not sourced.
Also, shout out to our friends over at Bet365. Bet365 is awesome. It's where we all go to make our bets. Hopefully you didn't have the Nuggets money line last night because they gave it a good run against the number one team in the East. But Jamal Murray can't make free throws. There are a bunch of...
He just couldn't in that situation.
That's true. We've seen him make them before.
He was really tired.
He was really tired. That happens at the end of basketball games, though. Be prepared. But there's all sorts of other stuff. Golf is back. Golf betting is a lot of fun.
It really is.
I haven't dug into this weekend's tournament yet, but there's all sorts of good stuff all the time. So get on over to Bet365 and check it out. They've got different perks every day, different bonuses and boosts. And breaking news from Bet365, new customers now get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use the code DNVR365, deposit $10, place bet for $5, and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or somebody who has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply. Back into the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by Bet365 from the Xfinity studio. Should we hit offensive coordinator next?
Yeah, absolutely.
What'd you think when they fired Joe Lombardi?
Who?
Wow.
No,
that's disrespectful. Me. Yeah.
I thought, I think the same thing that everyone thought is, okay, they're trying to make room for Davis Webb to get a promotion. It sounds like that's not exactly what happened. I think that it was possibly considered in the decision making is like, okay, well, if we don't have an open offensive coordinator position, then Davis Webb's not staying here no matter what. Right now, you have the situation where potentially he says, okay, I'm not going to get a head coaching job this year. Let me stay here and be the offensive coordinator. And then the truth is for Davis Webb, he's going to be a head coach next year if he doesn't get it this year, unless he, sucks at interviews or something like that. But I think, a lot of people are saying, well, he's just going to take the place where he gets play caller duties. I don't necessarily think that's true.
Yeah.
And I think it's a safer and potentially even smarter move for him to stay in the place where you are comfortable, you already know the operation, and you're not going to be judged off of 1 year where you're trying to implement a system for the first time. He can kind of skip the play caller role if he wants to and go straight to a coach, which he might already do now. But if he doesn't do it, I think that it will actually be really enticing and potentially the smarter move for him to stay rather than, let's say you go and you're the offensive coordinator for the Ravens and like Derrick Henry gets hurt or something. I'll touch wood because I don't want anyone to get hurt. But you have a down season on offense. Things don't go the way you're playing. All of a sudden, that shine that you had back in Denver is going to wear off of you. And that could happen here. But at the same time, the blame would probably fall on Sean Payton and not you. And you're still kind of this young up-and-coming candidate. So I think that was a part of it, but potentially not all of it.
Yeah, it's definitely a part of it. And you also... I've just assumed Davis Webb isn't going to take that Raiders job because it's just career suicide. And like when you're young and everybody likes you, like, yeah, you got passed over for the Bills job. I'm not sure if he's interviewed with the Ravens. I can't remember.
No, just for OC is what they're saying he's being considered for.
So he never interviewed for that. But eventually you become a good enough prospect that the good jobs are interested in actually hiring you. And that's when you have a chance to go and take success. Because if you give Davis Webb the Bills, maybe they don't get better, but they're not going to get significantly worse because they're the Bills. Like, they can only be so bad.
12 plus games.
Exactly. You go to the Raiders though, like you're just cooked. Like you're going to be fired in 3-4 years unless there's some sort of miracle that you can make happen there. But you don't have the resources that other teams have. So I've just assumed he wouldn't go there for that reason. But I mean, somebody's going to take that job for some reason.
Who's the other person in the running?
I forget.
Okay,
it doesn't matter. Some guy who could ruin his career. But if he actually is considering taking the Raiders job, you could, if you're Sean Payton, now say like, hey, we've got room for you to come back and be promoted, and you can recruit him back if you have that OC job that's open. If Joe Lombardi's still sitting there, you're not going to go to him and say, hey, well, don't tell anybody, but we'll make you the offensive coordinator. We'll fire Joe Lombardi if you're willing to come back, because that's just terrible business to go and try to offer a guy's job while he still has the job. So I think that it allows you to pull him in if there's a chance that he's on the fence. But it's just tough to say where exactly Davis stands and what he's looking for.
Totally. And it'll be interesting to see kind of how that shakes out. I'm excited to see the Broncos offensive coordinator search and see what names might end up popping up. I'm sure there'll be some intriguing ones. At the same time, Sean Payton is your offensive coordinator. And regardless of what happens with Davis Webb, who ends up being the offensive coordinator, where all that chips fall, the confidence in the Broncos' future lies within Sean Payton. And it's why for the 7 years that Zach and I were covering this team, where it seemed like they fired the coach every other year, I used to always bang the table for get the young, hot offensive mind, or get the wily offensive genius. Sean Payton was my number one on the hot board when we went through it in that search, because if you get the coach and quarterback pairing, that's the best thing that can happen to you, is you have the play caller, you have the quarterback, and no one can take that from you. When you're reliant on the young, hot offensive coordinator, like if you were reliant on Davis Webb, well, what's happening right now is what happens. And so for whatever reason, and I think it's just because he's kind of a dickhead, people love to turn on Sean whenever there's an opportunity to. But people forget that like the Sean Payton Bo Nix pairing is what is going to be the success of the Denver Broncos moving forward.
Yeah, it's interesting with Davis, like how his role changes if he becomes offensive coordinator, because you're no longer just spending all day with the quarterbacks. Like you have bigger things on your plate. You're no longer leading the quarterbacks meetings. You would, it's up to them how they want to structure things, but you wouldn't expect the offensive coordinator to be in there leading those meetings, and it's just not nearly as hands-on. So I'm curious to see what that would look like, because you do have to then go hire another quarterbacks coach who is that like first point of contact, the guy who's talking through every little detail of what's going on. Meanwhile, Davis is focused on other things. And I think occasionally you see things like, I'm trying to think, there was a comment yesterday of somebody saying like, why maybe it was the cornerbacks coach. It's like, why would you get rid of him? Because, the cornerbacks are good. it's not just about you coaching that one position. Like every week, maybe even every day, there's meetings where you're figuring out what your game plan is and what you're going to run. And typically how it works is you have your offensive coordinator sits at the head of the table and leads everything. And then you've got all your position coaches on the sides of the table. And certainly the offensive coordinator has more power over the decisions that are made or how you're building the game plan or how you're scripting what you're scripting or what you're looking for, what you think the weaknesses are. But it's a big conversation. Like it's all of the coaches together who are providing those ideas and figuring out what they want to attack. And those big picture conversations about how you want to attack a team, those can be just as important as then going to practice the next day and saying, okay, linebackers, here's what I want you to look like. It looks like this guy has a little bit of a tell. And so here's how we're going to exploit that. And all those things are always different. Like each team is different. I remember covering the Buffs one time when the offense wasn't going well and the head coach wasn't really all that involved in the like what's going on day to day, week to week in terms of the offensive meetings. But eventually things got to a breaking point. And so it was no longer just the offensive coordinator sitting at the head of the table, just pulled in a second chair. And there are two guys sitting at the head of the table. And the head coach wasn't talking, but he was sitting right there because he felt like he had to be more involved in what was going on.
Right. You got to see where is it going wrong.
Exactly. And so with all these shakeups, you know, you're losing Joe Lombardi's voice from those meetings. You'd imagine Sean's leading a bunch of them and in on most of them when it comes to the offense. But again, as a head coach, there are just other things going on where you're not part of all those. And so to go from Joe Lombardi to Davis Webb, if you're willing to say like, we want Davis's voice in these meetings, it's just tough for us to say like every week was a third of what they're doing offensively based on some great idea that Davis was having.
Yeah, no, I mean, great points all around and nice job of kind of laying it out so people understand it. I quickly want to talk about the Joe Brady thing and the play calling stuff. First and foremost, I'm not sure that Joe Brady is all that great. I think he might just be a quarterback merchant.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't dug too deep because it's Joe Brady off in Buffalo. It is what it is. But I have seen that like the best years of the Bills offense were the Joe Brady years. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that you want to bring those back.
Yeah, so you have Joe Brady, who's obviously, he's not even technically the play caller of the LSU, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson offense, but he's like the pass game coordinator or something, which then gets him hired by Matt Rule in Carolina. And I think the two of them became like the highest paid like coach coordinator duo at the time.
Okay.
And that obviously whole thing fails.
Yeah, that's Raiders to me. It's like it's just not possible to win at Nebraska.
And so then Joe Brady then goes, and I'm not exactly sure what his other stops were in there, but then he ends up with the Bills. And like, I'm not convinced that he's like some offensive genius.
Okay.
Second part of this is Sean Payton giving up play calling duties. Who would be incentivized to talk about Joe Brady potentially getting hired by the Broncos and getting play calling duties?
I mean, Joe Brady would be.
Joe Brady and his team. The Broncos wouldn't be incentivized to say that at all.
It comes out after he's already the head coach, though.
He already got what he's. It makes everyone sound good. Oh, okay. Yeah, Sean Payton was actually going to give up. That's how good he is. He was going to give up play calling duties. I don't buy it for a millisecond.
You don't buy that Sean could be tempted? Because that's the thing is like when Ian Rappaport says something, he to me is like the one guy I trust most. It's him number one, like Schefter number two.
I'm not saying that Rappaport isn't saying something that was told to him.
But I would go further than that though and say like I trust him to not just say something just because. Like Schefter, you could see just like doing the straight up trade. But I have a tough time just doubting that Ian Rappaport checked on things.
Here's what I could see is that Sean Payton, like I said yesterday, is ready to push his chips to the middle of the table. And so he would be willing to give more responsibility to someone who he thinks could push the offense to a higher level. Whether that was, whether that was offering him play calling or saying, hey, at some point, I'd like to step away from play calling and I'd like to offer that to you as like a coach in waiting thing. I could see that more. Or if it's more like, hey, like we can see how it shakes out. And potentially if everything's going great, you could have play calling. There's no way he's like saying in a meeting, like, I'll give you the play calling.
I kind of buy the report.
Okay.
Like, I mean, again, it's like a huge surprise. Like Zach said, what did he say? Like, talking to people in the building, they said it'd be a huge surprise if it was true. Like, yeah, it would be a big surprise. But surprises happen. Like, could Sean have self-reflected? I mean, he's the guy who said a couple weeks ago that he has to tell himself over and over again to stay aggressive because as he gets older, he thinks that he's just naturally becoming more conservative. Like, I don't think he's looking to give it up, but I do think that there's a chance that there's somebody out there who he says, I think this guy could come in and it's worth giving him that duty because I think he comes with so much else. But I don't think you do that for Davis Webb. Like, I think if you were going to do it, you would do it with somebody who has a track record of calling plays, because you don't give up having like a really good play caller for a total unknown, you know?
Yeah. And maybe, you know, Sean did mention at some point this year that like he feels like he needs to make decisions faster and things like that. So maybe there's a world where he's saying like, I'm the best offensive designer there is. Mm-hmm. If I could bring in someone who's a super sharp play caller, like the combination, but that would all.
Or you think Joe Brady is the best offensive designer. Like, you might, because I mean, Sean gave him his first job. Sean's a big Joe Brady guy. So if he really thinks like Joe Brady has what's next in football, like he might say like, I don't know that he's a better play caller, but I think he could be as good of a play caller. And if that's what it takes to get him in here, he could push the offense forward in all sorts of ways.
Potentially. I highly doubt it, but there's potential. Also, someone in the comments just said they've never seen me not wear a hat, which means they only started watching the show in like the last couple months.
Right. You used to be a no hat guy.
I used to never wear hats on the show.
It's true.
But then I grew my hair out in the back, and now I like the way it looks.
All right. We've got a lot more to talk about, including those other coaches, including who the next OC could be. Got to give a shout out to some more of our friends, though.
Athletes, weekend warriors, anyone who loves to move. For those experiencing any sports injury or chronic pain, the Common Spirit Mountain region is home to an incredible sports medicine program, including their new sports center, Common Spirit Health in Parker. When you go to Common Spirit, you're going to interact with a team of qualified and passionate providers who specialize in the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of sports-related injuries for all athletes, including our Denver Broncos. Their experts understand the unique demands of your body, and you'll get personalized treatment plans combining things like physical therapy, injury prevention strategies, and strength training. This is not just about fixing what's broken. It's about preventative care, getting out in front of it before you have a problem at all. So don't let an injury keep you on the bench. And even better, don't have an injury in the first place. For more information, visit mountain.commonspirit.org. Common Spirit Health, official healthcare partner of the Denver Broncos.
Also, want to give a shout out to our good friends over at Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers. They're the trusted team. You know, when life throws a curveball your way, Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers is there to help. We know all about loyalty as sports fans, the highs and the lows. It can be tough to deal with. And that's the approach that the Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers take to treating your cancer, the cancer of a loved one, because they'll be by your side through all the highs and the lows. And they've got the most experience. They've been fighting against cancer for over 30 years. They're the team Coloradans trust. They treat more adult cancer than anybody else in the state. And that's why you should choose them. So if you need a checkup, if you need treatment, they're the team that has your back. Like I said, more experience than anybody else. And they do it all with one goal in mind. They want to take your treatment head on and make it easier on you. Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers, your courage, their expertise, with one goal in mind. They take your treatment head on. Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers, your courage, their expertise. Back in the DNVR Broncos podcast, presented by Bet365. We're in the Xfinity studio, as the sign says.
Sports over everything, as the sign says.
Sports over everything. Oh, yeah. I never read that far down. There we go. It's right there. What do you think is going to happen with offensive coordinator?
I think that Davis Webb is going to be the offensive coordinator.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
I think that he doesn't get the head coaching job, which I think if offered, he actually takes.
You do?
Yes. And I think that he realizes, like, let's do this one more year. I'll be the offensive coordinator here. Maybe Sean does give him a little play calling.
I don't think you can do a little play calling.
Maybe.
I think some team tried that at some point. It's like, I call the plays in the red zone. You call the plays between the 20. And that was awful.
No, I don't mean it in that way.
Okay.
But Sean gives him more responsibility. Maybe gives him a little bit of like head coach and training type of stuff. And then he goes and takes the job elsewhere as a head coach next year.
Yeah. I mean, there's no rush, I wouldn't think. Like, because he's what, like 36 or something? Maybe younger than that, I would imagine. Like, there's just wait till somebody wants to give you a really good
let's
job.
Find out if Davis Webb is older or younger than me.
31.
Younger.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I don't know who would take that Raiders job. I especially, like, you just got to have patience and wait because things are going well in Denver.
Do you think Sean Payton made that comment yesterday about him taking that job knowing that he wasn't going to do it? So then it's like extra funny, like, to the internal staff?
I think something happened. I think there was something along those lines. It could even be like, I want Davis to come back and I'm going to keep telling him I turned down the Raiders job because it's an awful job and it's only gotten worse since then. The reason it's a bad job is they just don't have any money.
Sean's like, if you take that fucking job, I will run the score up on you every time.
Yeah. I mean, it's true because they're only going to get worse. Like, there's just no path to them being a functional football team. So I don't know. I'm curious how that all plays out. But yeah, I still think most likely he probably is most likely. I do think that there's value in going outside of the organization though, because that's not an offense that I look back on and say like they really squeezed every drop of juice out of what they had. Like it felt like there was a lot more they were capable of. That run game disappeared. I mean, how many times was that offense booed off the field this year? 5 times? 5 times did they get booed off the field? Not saying like it was right.
Quite that many.
Was it not?
Yeah.
I think it might have been. Because I mean, there are games where they're not picking up a single first down in the first quarter. Like the 3 and outs, I think. Did they finish highest in the NFL in 3 and out rate again this year? They were close. I'm not sure what happened down the stretch.
They were in the middle of the season. Yeah. No. I understand what you're saying.
And so I think there's value in going and finding somebody from the outside to come in and say like, here are some of your problems. Here are some of the things that we did differently or what worked for us. Because I think you could be a little bit too insular and think like, yeah, we got better, but there was more out there.
Totally. I think that a lot of these moves that Sean is making is good isn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that that's just like the general message of this offseason. It's why you moved on from the 2 coaches that you did and Joe Lombardi. So I think that he sees that. What do you think of a name that got thrown out for another OC job, John Gruden?
Man, that's really there's so many different routes your brain could go. So first thought is that's a really big personality to be working directly under Sean Payton. Yeah. So that seems like a terrible match in that way. But also it could be somewhat right. It could be somewhat of like a glory days. Like we had fun. They did this in Philly back in the day.
And like imagine our standing tea time.
Right. Oh, totally. Like so Montana this year, greatest head coach in Big Sky history by wins, like legendary. Their receivers coach leaves because like there's health troubles in the family. And so they go get Bobby Kennedy, who just happens to have a name that reminds you of a bunch of other more famous people. Mm-hmm. But so he was like the Longhorns receivers coach in 2005. And he like incredible track record, national championships, incredible receivers. But was retired because like he was retired. There's no more left to prove. And so you have a guy who's just way overqualified, who's your old friend. And so he just goes and he's living in the head coach's basement for the entire season. Just like, yeah, I need somebody to come in for 4 months and coach. And it's kind of the same thing where it's just like, yep, just get the boys back together, hang out all the time. I do think though that the whole Gruden, Sean Payton thing, week 8, love it. You get down to crunch time, late December. That's when there's real stress and not everything is just like fun and games. And I think that something would go wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I almost think though you bring him in, like You can give him an OC title, whatever, but it's more like he's just there to be like a quarterback whisperer.
Right. Do we want him to be a quarterback whisperer? Are we sure he's still...
I don't know. Look, I'm just...
The guy makes videos on YouTube. Each video somebody makes on YouTube, I think less likely for me to be interested in your coaching ability.
Wow, I'm fucking cooked.
I mean, you didn't start from like, in terms of me hiring you to be the Broncos offensive coordinator, you had some work to go the other way.
I'm still waiting for the call. I want to be the head coach of a youth football team.
Yeah. You have to have a kid. Once you have a kid, it's easy to do.
But I don't want that. Yeah.
Right. I know. But as soon as eventually you'll want it bad enough that you'll say, okay, I'll have a kid. But
then I have to wait another, 10 years?
You have to want it bad enough.
I'm saying then I have to wait another 10 years before my kid is football playing age.
Right. And if you really want to be a coach, you would just do that.
Well, I don't know. I am, by the way, his YouTube videos are great. And I don't know. I just threw that name out there because it's a name that people, know, and it came up. And who was the other, the Jets? Did the Jets offer him their head coach or their OC position?
Interesting.
I think so. There's other names out there that could be interesting and fun. I do think that if you do it, it has to be a very obvious, like we're improving in this area.
Yeah, Jets was the Jets.
And so that could be like quarterback stuff. That could be, that's already what Sean is. So maybe it's this guy is an elite run game designer.
Greg Roman. That's why I'm a Greg Roman guy. I think that's the hire that would make me the most fired up is if Greg Roman's the offensive coordinator. Because not perfect in a lot of different ways, but you look back at those Ravens run games, the Frank Gore run games back in the day, those are just special. I think that's exactly what you need.
It could be great. To be honest, if I knew we were going to have an open OC position, I would have loved to get Mike McDaniel.
Yeah.
For the same reason.
Right.
Because he's also an elite run designer, but he decided to light his career on fire and go to the Chargers.
Yes. Tough transition from that. But I do think that, Greg Roman at the place he is in his career, maybe he's still thinking I want to be a head coach someday, but there's a real chance that things have just kind of set in. And once you...
Like the Wade Phillips thing.
Right. Once you realize that this is where my value is, it's a lot easier to say okay, I don't need to get the most prestigious job possible. That's where with a Mike McDaniel, you're still thinking I need to call plays because if I'm not calling plays, then I'm not, because he's working toward other things. Same thing with Davis Webb. When you're Greg Roman, you don't need to call plays anymore because your job is just to go be the offensive coordinator. Your role could be a little different for a couple of years.
And really your job is just design sick run plays.
Right. Yeah. Make sure that everything just looks polished because that offense just was not polished. And again, I don't think that's a Sean Payton thing because again, Sean Payton just calls the plays and he'll go through and be in some of the meetings and design and script and a lot of that stuff. But there's a lot of the meat and potatoes work that he just doesn't have his hands on because he's the head coach with a whole bunch of responsibilities.
Yeah.
I think that it's just the polishing of the offense that wasn't there. Yeah.
You need an offense polisher.
Offense polisher. We'll have to think about who that is. We've got a lot more to talk about, including I want to talk about these cornerbacks and whether they underperformed.
Okay.
So the more I think about it, the more I think they underperformed this year. But real quick, I give a shout out to more of our friends.
Toyota, man. I absolutely love my Toyota. I have had my Toyota. This is the 6th year of me owning my Toyota, and I've yet to have to bring it into a shop one time.
Wow.
Pretty incredible.
Yes.
And that alone is enough to just lock me in as a Toyota customer for the rest of my life. I will always own a Toyota. That will always be my day-to-day get-around car because I can count on it so much. My last car that I had and the car before that were always giving me issues one way or the other, and it's just not a great feeling when you go out to your car and you can't be confident that it's going to get you from point A to point B every single day without issue. That's the promise that Toyota gives and the promise that I'll give you if you get a Toyota. So if you're looking to have a reliable car that's also fashionable and sweet and fast and everything else that you want, visit a Front Range store. Front Range Toyota store at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota's official automotive partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR. Let's go places.
Also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Big Brothers Big Sisters. January is National Mentoring Month. And that's why All City Network is proud to have partnered with Big Brothers Big Sisters, because showing up for the city goes beyond sports. We got to be a part of their shopping program at Dick's Sporting Goods. Went out there with Justin Sternad, while a bunch of these kids had a chance to go shopping for themselves right before Christmas. Cool experience. Those are the sorts of experiences that they're trying to build for kids who could use a mentor. Right now, there are thousands of kids who are waiting for a mentor, somebody to talk to, encourage them. And all it takes is a few hours a month, and you can help a young person build their confidence, stay on track, see a bigger future. If you care about the community the way you care about your teams, it's a moment to make a difference. Become a mentor today by visiting bbbs.org/allcity. That's bbbs.org/allcity. Step up, be a big, and help shape the next generation right here in Denver. Back into the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by Bet365, where if you deposit $10, place bet for $5, you get $200 in bonus bets. Also, we're in the Xfinity studio, which we love. Okay. Broncos fired their receivers coach. Mm-hmm. They dropped the ball too much. And all there are ways to defend him. Broncos led the NFL in drops over the past 2 years. They also, I think, led the NFL in pass attempts over the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. And those two things are obviously tied together. Like whenever you lead the NFL in pass attempts, you're not going to have a great total number of drops because the ball's in the air an extra 100 times.
Yeah. I'm starting to think that Sean Payton might be wanting to hire someone who can convince him to run the ball.
Interesting. That's the kind of the job description?
Yes.
Like just convince me to run the ball.
Yes. Like give me a run game that's good enough to run it. And then remind me from the sidelines or from the booth, like, hey, let's get a run in here. Let's get a run in here. Because certainly last year, meaning Bo Nix's rookie year, he was not good enough passing the ball to lead the league in passing attempts.
Right.
But Sean loves to pass it.
Right. Well,
and this year I thought he did a much better job with his opportunities.
They also throw more screens than anybody else in the league,
yep.
Which people hate, but I hate watching most of their runs more than I hate watching most of those screens when J.K. Dobbins doesn't play.
Yeah, I think that people see that though, and they're just like, it's like drinking like a green smoothie when someone runs the ball. It's like, it doesn't taste that great, but got to do it. We're just taking our medicine. We're eating our vegetables. Yep. Screens are like, this tastes bad and it's unhealthy to the fan.
Oh, that is what it is, because a screen really is just like junk food. Like, because it's just like, oh, look, this is going to be fun. Like you call them over and over again. Cause like it could be, but when they aren't actually fun, like when you're not producing big plays with them, then all of a sudden it's just like junk food that it doesn't taste good.
Right, like a 10,000 calorie meal that doesn't satisfy you.
And it's really quick to turn on that. But yeah, I mean, Broncos just couldn't run the ball, and that was the source of all that. Like you would have seen fewer screens if they could just run the ball. But when you can't run the ball, you got to find another similar way to go about it. And so you wind up with all those screens. And the more screens you run, the less they work, and the less you're threatening the middle of the field with the run, the tougher it is to get space on the boundaries for the screens to work. The whole thing was just kind of busted. And it never felt like, I mean, the bread and butter, I guess, was J.K. Dobbins. Like he was the identity of the offense. As soon as they lost him, there was just an offense without an identity. The identity was, we're just going to be really bad for 3 quarters, and then Bo's going to save us at the end, which
worked every time.
It did work. But it does feel like they were capable of much more, just given how easy it was for Bo to save them at the end every single time.
They had a fantastic offensive performance against the Bills, and it's like so easy for me to just think about that.
Right.
The last time Bo was quarterback.
Right. You forget the last time we saw them, they got booed off the field repeatedly and didn't have a first down in the first quarter.
Chargers game?
Was that the Chargers game? I can't remember. I get them all skewed because of the rested starters. Because they played preseason games at the end of the year, essentially, which is
it was weird.
Else.
Weird season.
Yeah, I think the receivers, though, more than anything, it felt like they just didn't have a plan for the receivers. And some of that is like, there are some plays that are tagged for, we are going to have Troy on the field to run this route. We're going to have Marvin on here to run this route. But a lot of those rotations are up to the receivers coach. And it felt like it was pretty random who was out there, because I'm pretty sure Troy finishes your second leading receiver among receivers, right? Mm-hmm. Pat Bryant was the guy who you look at and say like, oh, he can keep you on schedule. And then Marvin was just kind of absent most of the year, but then was good whenever he played. And so just those rotations of how they were using guys just never felt like they added up. I think a lot of the time when you say, I want more Marvin Mims, remember, yes, Sean will draw up plays for Marvin, and they'll call those plays for Marvin. But there's also all the other just normal standard offense plays where he's not on the field because the receivers coach says somebody else is better at that job in this moment. Or they're rotating how they do.
Yeah, I think I agree with you across the board.
And it was just kind of a mess. Because I look at each one of them individually and say, like, I think Troy had a really good year. I think Pat had a really good year. I think Marvin had a really good year. But somehow you weren't able to use them to their strengths in a way that produced just like better offense for each of them.
Yeah, but I also just think their strengths aren't transcendent enough. And that's why I'll continue banging the table for we need a dynamic playmaker. And when I say dynamic, I mean they can take a screen to the house. They can take a drag and break a tackle to get a first down. They're running comebacks. They're running nines. They're tough to get over, get in position against on a post. Like, we have too many specialists, and we need just dogs or a dog who's just like, good luck stopping him.
That is nice.
Yep.
Those guys are tough to find, though.
They are.
They're really tough to find.
They are. I have my first NFL draft crush.
Oh, who is it?
Who might have the skill set to do this.
I'm really curious. I just hope I know who it is. There's a good chance I don't.
KC Concepcion.
Oh, from Texas A&M?
Yep, from Texas A&M and previously NC State, I want to say. He's pretty electric.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think, and the reason why I'm choosing him is because I'm trying to find that skill set at the end of the first round, which is not easy. But I mean, the Rams found in the fourth?
Yeah. Fifth.
Fifth?
Yeah. No, but again, like, it's because they weren't drafting traits. They were drafting just good football players. Whereas the Broncos are drafting and develop. But like, I look at Troy Franklin and say, okay, 44 yards the first game, 89 in week 2, 55 in week 4, 89, 84, 85, 66. And like, you see that he can have big games, like good starting level games, better than starting level. Like, there are a lot. You put 80 up every week. What does that get you to? 80 times 17. That's on pace for 1360. Like, he can be a 1,000-yard receiver, but I just don't think he's put in situations to do that. I think he's out there in situations he shouldn't be. I think you look at Marvin, and again, like, I guess for him, you just want him on the field more. Just allow him to try to do more things. And maybe they say, like, he can't run a dig because we see it every day in practice, and that's why they don't do it. But I see it as every time I was on the field, something good happens. How is he not on the field more? Then Pat Bryant, it's the same thing where it's just like they lean on him. Sometimes there's a way to piece these together where it really fits. They just didn't find a way to make it fit and be functional. And I think that was the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Especially for young guys who you expect just to take another step.
I also think they need to figure out what Bo Nix likes. Over time, when a quarterback develops and becomes who they are in the NFL, you start just like looking at skill sets and you're like, oh, he loves to throw to a guy like this. To me, part of the Evan Ingram problem is I don't think Bo was looking for him.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, that relationship just never clicked.
Yep.
I don't think it's that Evan Ingram was never open. And then when he is open, he had a couple drops. Well, now you lose trust. Same thing can be said of like they're force feeding the ball to Troy early in the season. And I think he dropped the ball enough times where it was finally just like, I don't know if I want to go that way. So we need that consistent receiver who Bo can trust. And a lot of people, I think this George Pickens conversation will be
explosive,
short-lived.
Oh,
because I don't think the Cowboys are going to let him go, and I
interesting.
think they'll get something done with him pretty soon.
Yeah, I think they're stuck with him after you trade for him. You can't just let him walk.
That one's so easy to talk me into.
I know it is. I know it is.
Broncos. He is an actual beast.
The Broncos just have so many like good people on their team and almost no assholes.
Do you know him?
I just don't. I think we all know him. Everywhere he goes, he's just a little. Can we say the B word? No.
Sure.
He's just a little. Yeah. Okay. Fine. He's just a little baby everywhere he goes. Gotcha. Yeah. I can't.
Was he that way last year?
I'm sure he was.
I don't think he was.
I'm sure he was. Cornerbacks coach too. This is one that was probably more surprising. I think it's easy to look and say like, well, you have really good cornerbacks. Why would you fire him? And it's because you think that they're capable of more. And I think Pat Surtain should have been an All-Pro. Or first team. I can't remember where he finished, but I think Riley Moss we should be talking about as one of the league's better number 2 corners in the NFL. Instead, you can't talk about that because of the penalties. It's just a situation where you wind up with the guy who has the second most pass interference penalties in the NFL and the third most pass interference penalties in the NFL. Like that's
Who had the third most?
Pat.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean that's why when we were talking about before he got hurt, it's like it's going to be tough for him. Like that's what ruled him out of the Defensive Player of the Year conversation at the time, is because he kept getting called. And there are tough calls in there for sure for both of them. But I think that if you were to go through the other guys who got called for a lot of pass interferences, you'd be like, oh, that one's kind of ticky-tack. That's just the nature of those. And when that keeps happening, I think it makes sense to make a change.
I completely agree. I think it could really be as simple as just Riley Moss. I think that I think that Riley Moss is a good player.
Yeah.
And I think also Riley Moss was too handsy at times. And unfortunately for him, his handsiness got him a reputation of being handsy. And then it made it really easy for refs to just look for it. When they saw a ball up in the air heading his direction, they're like, all right, let's look at the jersey. Let's make sure he's not grabbing the arm. And then as soon as they see it, oh, there it is. Boom, flag.
Yeah.
I think that he, hopefully getting a new coach in there just gives him kind of a clean slate, some new technique that helps him, to play a little bit more confidently and not feel like he has to do that.
Totally.
Like, look at, and like maybe there's a little hand fighting on this, but like the way that Jaquan on one of the coolest plays in Broncos history was just like patient, didn't panic, waited till he got eyes on the ball and then attacked it, was just like so textbook. That's what Riley needs to do.
Yep. I think so too. Again, like 2 guys in the top 3 for pass interferences.
Yeah, that's bad. That's getting you fired.
That's getting you fired.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, maybe it could be overlooked if, like, oh, the linebackers underperformed and like, oh, the pass rush wasn't really getting home. But when there's nobody else who you look at and say, like, you're not firing your defensive line coach, you're not firing your outside linebackers coach, you're not firing your safeties coach, like, it's
so many times we give up points was because of those penalties.
Right.
And maybe this is oversimplified, but wouldn't you say that like your skill, ability, and talent gets you in position and your technique allows you to make the
result?
Yeah. Yeah. And so they were there.
Yeah.
All season long they were there. They got a lot of flags. Yeah. And like Riley, unfortunately, also just had a lot of like miracle balls completed on him.
Right. Yeah. So it is what it is. We'll hit some super chats before we get out of here. Neem Dog, not gonna lie, I'm tired of trying to find a joker. Forget the joker. Let's get ballers. Pickens, Bijan, Marvin, Harrison Jr., Montgomery. Bold to include him in that list. Yeah. I'm not sure he belongs in that list. I get the excitement is building around also, Broncos fans.
Bijan might be the jokerest player in the league.
He's split out wide more than I think any other running back. I think maybe him and Kenneth Gainwell would be the 2.
Also,
shout out Neem Dog.
Puka Nacua would probably fall in that role. Yeah. Although, doesn't Sean say it's not usually a receiver?
Yeah. He doesn't believe it is. I think there are ways to get Marvin the ball. Like, I love whenever they put Marvin in the backfield. The result is always good. Like, you see Jackson Smith and Jigbo with the scissors route for the touchdown. Do that with Marv all day.
We didn't talk about, there's just so much to talk about. We didn't really get to talk about the Bills game itself. The play where Marvin lined up in the backfield in the pistol, from my angle in the stadium, they were hiding him.
Oh.
Like he was hidden behind Bo. He was ducked down. And I think it was 1, like hopefully they didn't see him, but 2, they didn't want him to see who it was.
Yep.
So it's just like, okay, there's a back there. They didn't want to see 19.
Yep.
So they would, be more alerted to the threat. Like that was a stroke of genius on I think a 3rd and long.
Neem Dog again. What about Todd Henry? I don't know a Todd Henry.
What about Todd Henry.
Oh, so Neem Dog doesn't know commas. We're still working on commas.
I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great offensive coordinator.
Henry out there.
Yep. Let him call plays. Todd
Davis?
Todd Davis, yeah.
I love Todd Davis.
I do too. Unfortunately, linebackers coach isn't open, and that'd be the one that he would probably fit best into.
Yes, it would. Dang. Be cool if he came to Super Bowl.
Would be. Maybe we should invite him. Rat Pack Text just gives us $10. That's nice.
Thank you.
Apple Kid 100. RK, you're not the only one that has been thinking about what Pickens would do for this offense. He's my dream signing for free agency.
Sometimes you gotta believe in what you have in your locker room.
And then blow it up.
No, and say when you come in here, you're going to just fit. You're gonna find a way to fit in because it's such a great brotherhood in this locker room that once you join it, you just can't help but be a part of it. Yes. Pause.
I just don't. Yeah, I hate that phrase. That's why I don't use that phrase anymore. That's a bad one.
But the Patriots did it a bunch, especially late in Tom Brady's career, where they were just taking chances on guys because they're once you come in here and you're being led by Tom, you're gonna fall in line.
Yeah. Anything's possible. Let's see. Before the Chiefs game, he posted and deleted an Instagram feature of story featuring Brittany Mahomes. Caption: "We feast tomorrow." Okay, that's not the end of the world. He was benched for the first series in Week 11 because he missed the team bus.
Classic mix-up.
Classic. He had a clash with former analyst Richard Sherman. He had a subpar game against the Lions. Richard Sherman publicly criticized him. He deleted the post after, so big of George to delete it after. He blasted the criticism. Oh, I do kind of remember this one because he basically said Richard Sherman wasn't any good or something like that. Because the guy doesn't know ball.
Whoa.
He doesn't know ball. He can play ball. He does not know ball. I mean, any receiver who thinks if he doesn't get 8 targets, then there's this agenda against him, doesn't understand how football works.
You know
sometimes it just happens.
I would love to do?
What?
Give George Pickens 8 targets.
Sure. Apparently throughout the year, there was an undercurrent of tension in media, social media, because of he didn't know what his contract was going to be like, whether he'd be back. But some of the context just comes from the time in Pittsburgh where he was a polarizing personality.
There you go.
So there's our little
He's growing up
update.
Right before our eyes.
Yeah, only got benched once.
For what? A quarter? The drive?
Yeah, first drive. Got benched for one drive. Yeah, we could use that guy. Jay Bird, probably not, but do you think there's any trade combo of players and or picks to get in top 5 or 10 in next year's draft to try and get wide receiver Jeremiah Smith, Ohio State? Got to know where they're picking first. Hopefully they're picking 32. Well, it's a long way away.
Who's picking?
Broncos.
Well, the Broncos are picking at 30.
But Jeremiah Smith is next year's class.
Oh, I don't think that commenter knew that.
Circle back next year.
Okay.
Yeah. Rat Pack Text. Hank.
Maybe they're thinking of Cardinal Tate.
Maybe. Could be. Hank, stop. Troy, he dropped so many key balls, and so did Sutton. If it wasn't for J-Mac's pick, we would be calling about Sutton dropping 2 balls in overtime, too many drive killers. We need a true number 1. That's why I think if you make a move, the move is to replace Sutton as the number 1. I like the way the rest of it fits together. I think you trade Sutton and go get Justin Jefferson or something, but I don't know that you can actually do that. Ooh, I did get lambasted by a particular Vikings fan yesterday for bringing up a Justin Jefferson trade. Last time I say his name in a trade.
All right, leave it up to me.
Right.
Trade for Justin Jefferson. Trade for Justin Jefferson. Insane turmoil because of how bad the quarterback is in Minnesota. Trade Justin Jefferson.
Right. Imagine him with a real quarterback. I guess we can. He had 1,800 yards. I think, I don't know if you could actually go get any of those true elite guys, because there's only a few of them. There's Justin Jefferson, there's Puka, Devontae's not even there anymore. I don't think. There's Jamar Chase, T Higgins isn't even
JSN.
there. JSN is there now. Tyreek Hill is, but if you don't want George Pickens, you don't want Tyreek Hill.
Even if you do want George Pickens, you don't want Tyreek Hill.
Right. You still could. Yeah. That's where you draw the line.
That's a pretty clear line.
It's a pretty clear line. That guy's the worst. Neem Dog. Henry, chill with the fresh cut. My girlfriend's watching this. Oh, thank you. Yes, I did get my hair cut.
It's a good comment.
My girlfriend might be watching too. Hopefully not, though, after the Justin Jefferson talk.
Justin Jefferson's got to get out of there.
He's got to get out of there.
Got to get away from 9.
Get away from 9. Watch out for 9. All right. That's going to do it for today. Plenty more to talk about throughout the offseason. We'll be here every day.
Denver Roach says, be realistic. It's the offseason. We don't have to anymore.
No, everything is realistic at this point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful thing.
You got $40 million to play with. You got a full slate of draft picks to play with. I think a rookie first round pick is much less valuable to the team than the equivalent player you could be trading that first round pick for.
If the NFL was serious about their betting partners, they would allow you to bet salary cap.
Wow. In what way?
So it's like we have $40 million in salary cap.
Yep.
We just like put it all
okay.
on Seahawks money line in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And minus 250 or whatever.
That would really add a dynamic. But then next thing you know, so Sean makes that bet and then says like, hey, I have this inside scoop on the Rams. Or let me give you all the Pats info in the Super Bowl because we just played them.
Ooh, that does create a conflict of interest.
It does create a conflict of interest, which is why they aren't even allowed to bet their own money on games.
Conflict of interest, great drama.
That is true. It does create drama. George Pickens, conflict of interest, probably. That's going to do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more.
God bless Koenigsberg.
We all silly like the mayor.